So that's what we're going to be looking at now. So inverses in trigonometry. To find angles, you need to use the inverse. When we know two sides of a right triangle, we can use the inverse trigonometry to find a missing angle. I can't speak. A is an angle, X is the ratio of the sides. Everybody, on your calculators, you'll notice above the sine, cosine, and tangent, you'll see something that says sine with a -1, cosine with a -1, and tangent with a -1. Does everybody see that? Yeah. If you do not see that, let me know. And all you have to do is hit the second button to get there. Those are the inverse functions to find angles. Those are also known as the arctangent, arccosine, and arcsine. On your calculators, they're going to be negatives, though. So that's why. So hit the second button, and then sine. Hit second, and then sine. You have shift. Shift button, and then sine.
What's the shift?
This one.
Oh.
If you just hold it down and then press shift.
And then that gives you the inverse one. So what this means is this switches the angle with the ratio. So it switches the angle with the ratio, and you do the inverse sine of the ratio to get the angle measure, or you do the inverse cosine of the angle or the ratio to get the angle measure, and so on and so forth. These are used interchangeably, so that's why we're showing you both of them. Anybody not know how to pull those up on their calculators? So we're finding angle measures now. So let's practice this. Find the measure of each using your calculator, then round to the nearest hundredths. So it's tenths, hundredths. So that's 2 decimal places. So to find an angle measure, you have to use the arcsine or inverse sine. So you do sine of -1, sine to the -1 of 0.4567 equals our angle measure. So go ahead and do inverse sine, second sine, 0.4567. And you might want to write it up exactly how I wrote it, just so you know what we did there. Round to 2 decimal places for me. And I hope you guys all got 27.17, and it's an angle measure, so I'm going to say degrees. Did anybody not get that and need me to check what they're doing? So you're going to have to type in the decimal first, and then do it, I think. So now do second sine, and then hit, and then should work. Okay. I forget that some of you guys have those calculators.
Why is there a little dot above 17?
That's a degree symbol. So yours is there, you're going to have to use shift. So you'll do shift, sine, and then you do 0.4567, and then hit enter. Okay? No. Okay, so how are we going to find the angle measure using tangent? What are you going to have to use? The inverse tangent, which is the thingy. So tan to the -1 of 0.7483, when you do the inverse, it switches the ratio with the angle, equals the angle measure. Yes, Casey?
What are we using this to do?
So you use the inverse to find the angle measure. So you're finding angle measures. And you'll see that more when we get to the triangles. Okay. So when you do the regular sine, cosine, and tangent, you're finding side lengths. Oh, right. If you use the inverse, you're finding angles. Okay? So that was a really good question you asked. So Devin, what did you get? What did you get? 48. Did anybody else get 48.44?
Or 36.8.
36? Okay, let me see what you did there. Because your calculator's weird, that's why I asked you. Second. You hit sine. We're using tangent. So, to find an angle measure, which is what's always inside of a trig function, angle measures are always inside the trig function, you have to use the inverse. So what are we going to have to use if we're using cosine? What's the inverse of cosine? No, that's the reciprocal. Nope. The inverse of cosine is the inverse cosine. Or arc cosine. It doesn't matter how you want to say it. So you switch the ratio of the sides with the angle measure. And Jill, what do you get? Okay, now do point. 3357. There you go. So that's 70.38 degrees. The little dot.
One time. It looks just
I mess up all the time. You guys make fun of me all the time. It's okay.
Point. Like, I just thought maybe you accidentally just put like a little dot above it.
No. All right. Questions on that before we get to the next examples here? What's up? Somewhere. Yep. All right, so write the correct trig ratio, then find the missing angle. Rain. What the heck is wrong with me? Can somebody please help me?
That was a really good one. Are you videotaping this?
Yes.
I can't wait to listen to this.
Round your answer to the nearest tenth. For
You
goodness.
said rained for round.
I have no clue. It was embarrassing. We're moving on from the issue. You're right, it did. Oh gosh, if only I could talk. So, our angle measure that we're referring to is never, ever the 90-degree angle. It's x is what we're trying to find. So, what side is my opposite, Katie? 12. What side is my hypotenuse, Hunter? Casey, then what's my tangent then? Tangent. What's my tangent? Goodness gracious. My adjacent.
It's still 11.
I can't even. Okay, so we're going to write SOHCAHTOA down again to figure out which trig function we have to use. So I know an opposite and an adjacent, but I do not know the hypotenuse. So which trig function should I be using? Tangent, and we always put the angle measure on the inside. So I have tangent of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. Not hypotenuse, adjacent. So notice, our variable is no longer in the ratio. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
It's inside the trig function, which means we're trying to find an angle. And Casey asked this earlier, why are we using this? Well, this is why we have to use the inverse. So because we're trying to find an angle, we have to use the inverse. So we're going to do tangent inverse of our ratio is equal to the angle, x. So you guys that have the normal TI calculators can do the tan inverse and then just type 12 divided by 11, yep, and get it out. You're going to have to do 12 divided by 11 and then do the tan inverse. The arctangent is another way to say it, arctangent. Let me see. Yep, and hit enter. Or equals. And what did you get, Logan?
47.5.
And it definitely has to be less than 90 degrees. Anybody not get 47.5? Devin, did you get 47.5? Okay. I'm not picking on you. I just want to make sure because your calculator's different. So, which angle, Gabe, am I referencing in number 5? Angle X, because it is not the 90. So, Cameron, what is my opposite of the 90? Or not opposite of the 90. Opposite of the X. No wonder Cameron's like, what the heck are you even talking about? Beyond Mark's side. Yeah, he's like, stop talking wrong. I can't handle you anymore. You're fine. Harmony, what is my hypotenuse? Was that you that said that or somebody else? Okay, good. I felt like she threw her voice like it was coming from over there. So that means that this side is my adjacent side. So I write down my SOHCAHTOA. I think there's something wrong. After I said that word wrong, I've just been like,
What was the first time you said wrong?
woo!
I don't think it was rotten enough.
I haven't even eaten it. Also, it was because I said round wrong, and now it's all I can think about.
Yeah. You just ready to say, I felt great. I think we should be done. I didn't know you felt that bad.
I didn't know you were that angry.
Okay. So we have an adjacent and a hypotenuse side. They're probably like, oh gosh, we're giving Miss Brady an iPad. Then she definitely needs this survivor case on it because she's going to throw it. So anyways, which one of those do we have to use, Olivia? Cosine. So the angle always goes on the inside. So we have cosine of x equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Notice we are finding our angle measure. So whenever we're finding an angle measure, Carmichael, what do I have to remember to use? Starts with an I. I-N.
Inverse.
Yeah, we have to use the inverse. So we're going to use arc cosine, or cosine to the -1, which is the inverse cosine of the ratio, is equal to the angle.
That's very sly there.
Thank you. I mean, something is going right for once in the last 20 minutes. Katie, what did you get? Did it round up? Or is it just 49.9? Yeah, it is. No, is it 99?
Yeah.
So that it has to be 50.
Yes.
My 5 looks terrible.
Does that really have to do?
Yeah, that's what I said, so yes. I rounded up. All right. Let's do the next one there.
Yeah.
We're going to do one on this slide in number 8. Deal? Which ones have we used? We've used tangent and sine, so let's see if this, or did we use tangent and cosine?
Yeah, we
So let's see if this next one is sine. It is, okay. So let's do number 6. So the opposite side is what, Devin, to x? Remember, we never use the 90. Iku, the hypotenuse is, which forces this other one to be our adjacent. So I write down my SOHCAHTOA. I know. We know the opposite in the hypotenuse, so yes, we are using the sign because I already told you that, right? That's why. No, it's because we know the opposite in the hypotenuse. So we always do sine of the angle equals the ratio of the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we have to use the arc sine or inverse sine of the ratio to get the angle. Kylie, what do you get?
Oh, 25.38. Little circle.
So that's 25.4 because we're rounding to the nearest tenth. And the little circle is a degree symbol.
Can you really point at little circle?
Little circle. Sounds like a rapper.
Little circle.
That would make sense if that was your rap name of anybody. Let's be
It's
honest.
gonna be like on the radio. It's gonna be like little circle. She'll be like,
That's Kylie, guys. Also, how are you on the radio would be also my other thought for rapping.
I'm becoming famous. Okay.
Okay.
Famous rapper.
I'm gonna be amazed when that
If I
happens.
actually do it, it's like
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, it says find all the missing angles in your triangle. Round your answers to the nearest tenth. So what that means is we just need to choose an angle that we want to reference. Do we want to find angle A or angle B? It does not matter.
Hey.
So A is our reference angle here.
I'm gonna rap about that. I found that.
Nobody's gonna listen to you.
Maybe she'll have good songs that will help kids remember things, you know.
And then
Yeah, like
they're all
your
gonna riot
thing,
against her
the-
because her song's fake.
Okay, so if we are finding angle A, and it doesn't matter, Kylie could have chosen to do B, it doesn't really matter. We just said A, so we know the opposite and the adjacent, so that means we have to use the, which one? TOA. So we do tangent of our angle A equals opposite over adjacent, which means we have to use the arc tangent to find our measure. Of our angle. Gabe, what did you get? Are you doing fine with this one? Like, are you getting the same things we're getting? Gabe, when you get it, let me know. Point 1. Okay, so how many degrees does a triangle add up to? So we have angle B plus 17.1 plus 90 equals 180, because we have to add to 180. Because it says to find all the angles. So instead of using trig again, I'm just adding to 180. Did I add that right? 10, 107, yeah. What's 180 minus 107.1? And there you go.